Well, this might be a different video than normal, but I really wanted to talk about this topic. Today, I'm going to talk about the release of global Persona 5X. There was a comment on one of my videos that made me really want to talk about this topic. I was responding to another comment that was left on my video. It was basically someone just asking if I knew anything about global P5X, but I obviously only knew some sort of things that the devs said. The devs previously only stated that JP and Global were going to release near the same times, and I thought that was pretty true at the time. But someone responded to my reply, and it really made me want to think about making this video. This person said, "Don't forget recruitment of potential English voice actors, though it seems a bit problematic with the recent strikes. Even though I'm not in the US, I got the general gist of the situation. Unless it's a recording studio that accepts the terms, the global version is likely to be delayed or released without English voiceovers, like Q2. The other problem is getting back the VAs to reprise the roles of existing Persona 5 console titles, as Royal, Strikers, and Tactica were confirmed for future Crossfade events. The same thing happened in the current Asian servers, as Ryuji's JP VA wasn't able to record for the first two Crossfade events, likely due to schedule. Now, the problem is fixed." After reading this, it really made me think, wow, there's really just a lot of stuff that could affect the release of global P5X. And then I responded to this commenter with, "Oof, yeah, I totally forgot about the strikes. It seems like the situation may be more complicated than I thought. I think I may make a video in the future discussing this topic further, and maybe talk about my predictions for global. Thanks for the comment." The commenter then responds back to me, saying, "I brought this up due to the voice acting being the selling point of the franchise. Keep in mind, back in Q2, only JP audio, likely due to the time and 3DS being in its last life cycle. However, both factors kind of contributed to low sales in the West side. The same thing happened in Strikers, as the global version released close to the year after the JP due to COVID, which lessens the opportunity for proper quality studio recording. So far, as seen with Genshin, several voice lines were missing in 5.1, and likely future content due to the strikes." So this comment really made me think harder about the situation. We don't know much about P5X Global. It has only really been mentioned twice by the devs. They only mentioned how Global was going to release the same time as JP. This statement was pretty important because it basically confirmed that Global was going to release at some point. The second time it was mentioned was during Tokyo Games Show. The devs mentioned that people around the world really showed interest in the game. This one isn't really about Global, but it was close enough, to be honest. But there's one thing that really concerns me about the original release plan of Global. I don't know if I'm dumb or something, but when I think about the development of JP, I just realize, what are they even developing? All versions of P5X already have Japanese voice acting, which means the game is already translated in Japanese. So if the game is already translated, what are they even working on? I think this just really points to the fact that JP is releasing way sooner than I had realized. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if JP dropped in December of this year. But then I start to think about what needs to be developed for Global. For Global to be released, they need to translate this game into various languages, and they need to dub the game in English, which I think is way more work compared to what they're doing for JP. I guess JP can just be delayed so Global can release with it, but I really don't know why they would do this. So I just started to think about what different situations could happen with the release of this game. I thought of 3 endings that sound pretty realistic: the bad ending, the good ending, and the neutral ending. I'll start with the bad ending. In this scenario, Global would be released after JP, but with English voice acting, so Global would basically be delayed. I think this would be caused by the voice acting strikes. Now, I'm not really too knowledgeable about this entire situation, but I'm pretty sure it's about voice actors trying to get protection from companies using AI tools to simulate their voices without getting any compensation and without their consent. The commenter also pointed out how games are already being affected by the strike. They used Genshin Impact as an example, because recently it released content that wasn't voiced in English due to these voice acting strikes. I believe these strikes could lead to some difficulty for Atlus to hire new voice actors for the English dub of this game. This would eventually just delay the release of the game altogether. But let me talk about the good ending for a bit. In this scenario, Global would release at the same time as JP with an English dub. I believe there are 2 ways that this could happen. Option 1 would be Atlus just accepting the demands of the SAG-AFTRA strikes. so voice actors could feel safe voice acting for P5X. Or Atlus could have started recording voice acting for P5X Global before the strikes began. From what I've read, voice acting recording usually starts when a game is deep in development. These strikes also began in July of 2024, so it could be possible that the voice recording for P5X began before them. I think the second scenario is the most plausible situation. Atlus beginning recording maybe in May or April of 2024 sounds pretty reasonable. Hell, they might have even began way earlier than that. Again, I don't really know how this stuff goes down. This should have given them enough time to get new voice actors and get the old voice actors back for Crossfade. But if everything lined up, then it could lead to Global and JP releasing at the same time, along with an English dub of the game. But let me talk about this neutral ending that I thought of. In this scenario, Global and JP would still release at the same time, but Global would not have an English dub. The commenter actually pointed out how PQ2 released in a similar way, and I think it means it could possibly happen with P5X. But the more I think about it, the more I just think it won't happen at all. I really agree with the commenter when they say that voice acting is a big selling point of the Persona franchise. So I think it'd just be a really dumb move from Atlus to drop P5X without an English dub. But I think there's still a very slight chance that Atlus does this so Global and JB can release at the same time. You never know with them. Now that I've talked about these 3 endings that I made up, I'm gonna talk about which ones I think are likely. I believe that it would most likely be the bad ending or the good ending that actually happens. I still really think that the voice acting strikes are the make or break deal with this situation. It all really depends on whether or not recording started before or after the strikes began. If they started before, then they should be able to dub the entire game into English. But for future content, it might not be fully voiced. We still don't know, to be honest. But if it started after the strikes began, then it's a really big problem for Atlus. They honestly might be one of the first companies to just accept these terms. I still don't know why all of these big companies don't accept them. It just really doesn't make sense. I guess I really just understand why these people are going on strike to begin with. I also believe Atlus is just the type of company who really cares about the voice actors, because they're all just really good people. I think I somewhat believe in Atlus in making the correct decision here if it really comes to it. But this still just leaves one big question. When will Global release? If Global and JP still release at the same time, I believe Q1 of 2025 is the most reasonable guess. So January 1st to March 31st is the release window for that. But if Global is delayed because of the voice acting, I think JP will still probably release in Q1 of 2025, but Global may even be delayed to Q2 or maybe even Q3 of 2025. That would be an entire year after CN, TW, and KR. That would be really bad for Global, because when CN gets an update, they would literally have to wait an entire year to get it. I don't really know if much players would even want to play through that. So I'm really hoping that Global doesn't get delayed further, just for the sake of the player base, honestly. As for when we'd actually get news about Global, I would honestly bet money that we would get at least a peep from the Game Awards this year. The Game Awards last year had like a P3RE trailer at it, which is pretty cool, and I'm pretty sure another Jeff Keighley show had the trailer for Joker and Persona 3 Reload, so I think Game Awards would be a really good thing to watch if you're a fan of Persona or a fan of P5X. But at the end of the day, this video is just speculation, so I might be completely wrong. Who knows at the end of the day with Atlus? But yeah, that's the end of this video. It was a bit shorter than usually, but I just still wanted to make this video because the topic just really interested me. I guess it's also just me experimenting with different types of videos, so oh well. When do you think that Global's releasing? You can leave a comment. I would love to hear other people's opinions on the situation, maybe even different things that could affect the release date. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye!